Let's just get into things. Noah Feit, the sports editor from the Aiken Standard. We missed you last week. We are glad you're back in town.
I'm glad to be back. I brought some of Alaska with me in my form of a head cold, but I'm happy to be back.
I thought you were just doing your Barry White. Intimidate. Dang with it.
See, it worked.
If you go to Alaska, you got to be hardy. I know that.
That's right.
Imitation. All right. And Kenny Brace.
Good to see you.
Right off the golf course?
Right off. No, no golf today.
No golf today?
No, I had to work today.
He was cutting grass earlier this morning. I'm sure it's beautiful.
It looks good now.
Yeah, well, good. I'm glad you got that taken care of because we got important things to do. Football. I guess we'll go ahead and just dive right into South Aiken playing host to Northwestern. Are y'all as excited about it as I am?
Well, I think we're excited, but we're probably not as excited as you are. We know that you you wave the banner proudly, and we do admire that. But it should be, based on how South Aiken has looked so far this year, it should be a good game. It should be a much better game than it was a year ago, and I think a game that realistically South Aiken can play to win.
I remember that Greenwood last year beat South Aiken 41-0 or something to that effect, and 17-10, certainly much certainly much. What was the score against Northwestern last year?
I think it was something along the lines of around 56-21, 28. I don't know off the top of my head, but it was a game where South Aiken was more competitive because they had opened the same way they had this year with Richland Northeast, then Greenwood, and then Northwestern. And they went into that Greenwood game kind of hoping to compete, and they just kind of had their doors blown off. And I think it was a credit to Coach West and his staff and the players there that they got off to a bit of a slow start the next week against Northwestern playing out there, but they were able to rally and make it a more competitive game. Certainly more competitive. I think that the way it played out, Northwestern scored a couple times late to really extend the final score. But it was a game where South Aiken did some good things. It wasn't as they had been the week before against Greenwood, where they just were kind of overmatched. And now we see this year they played so well against Greenwood last week that maybe that opens the door for some possibilities.
And I'm sure that their expectation is higher, South Aiken's, and maybe Northwestern somehow remembers last year and thinks this might be easy. And I'm sure that as the super analyst that you are, that you've analyzed the Northwestern team. And what do you think what are we going to see?
Well, we're going to see a lot of footballs in the air from Northwestern. They throw the ball a whole lot. They've thrown it about 3 times as much as South Aiken has already. And, of course, we have a quarterback coming in Bo Baldwin, who we all expected to put the ball in the air a lot. Hasn't done that so far this year. He's thrown it a little bit, and he's been pretty accurate with it. 3 touchdowns, I believe, so far. But this Northwestern team, they use the pass mainly as their short running game. They just line up. They're going to throw it all over the park. It's going to be one of those things where I believe they have again 7 or 8 kids that caught passes last week, okay, one of whom caught 10 passes last week, and that's more than anybody in Aiken County has caught the whole season, I think. So we're going to see that. And here's my interesting take on this game. I think South Aiken has to come into this game and control the football. If they let Northwestern have the ball, Northwestern's going to put up 30, 40, 50 points. I really believe that. Okay, so South Aiken has got to be able to run the football, and that's what they've been doing well so far this year. Okay, they've run the football more effectively than they've thrown it. If they can control the game a little bit, we might have another close ball game. The one thing that I'm worried about, as I looked in the paper this morning and saw the stats, the punter for South Aiken is second in punts, at least in average-wise, but he's punted the ball 12 times already, okay? If he has to punt the ball that much against Northwestern, that means Northwestern's shut down the running game, and I think South Aiken would be in big trouble. I think, however, Adam Allen and a couple of the other running backs, they're going to do fine. South Aiken does have a lot more confidence this year. They're playing much better. They've already put 40 on the board in one ball game, and they played Greenwood very well. The community is a little bit more excited. People think that they are a competitive football team. I think it's going to be a great football game.
And I think you brought up an excellent point with it really is incumbent on the defense and really the offense playing sort of keep away, controlling the ball, controlling the time of possession, and because the defense is going to face a challenge they haven't faced yet this year against both Richland Northeast and Greenwood. These are two teams that barely passed, and South Aiken did a tremendous job when they were in situations where they were thrown against. But this is a totally different team, as you say, that they come in with Mason Rudolph, who's he's one of the top, certainly the top 25, maybe the top 10 quarterback prospects in the country. He's been the starting quarterback at Northwestern since he was a sophomore. He's a senior now. He is tailor-made to run this offense. They're spread, they're fast-paced. He spreads it around to a lot of guys. And so it's going to be a different challenge than what South Aiken has faced at this point, where they've really kind of had to load up and be prepared for someone to run right at them. Now that they're going to be on their heels a little bit, and we'll see how the one area of the team that was a little bit inexperienced was the secondary. We'll see what they're made of, because they will certainly be tested.
Right.
I'll tell you what, Coach Otto from Charlotte Catholic, who they played last week, is a well-respected and very successful football coach. He has the #1 running back in the entire state of North Carolina, who's already committed to North Carolina to play at the college level. And they went into the ball game trying to stop him last week, okay? But then on the other side of the coin, Coach Otto said, we could not contain the Northwestern receivers. He said they got too many and they were too fast for us. Now, if that's the case, then South Aiken better be ready tomorrow.
Yeah, and you've got a quarterback who's committed to Oklahoma State. Like you said, he's been there for 3 years. He took Worley's place, who is at Tennessee now and one of the quarterbacks at Tennessee. So Northwestern's got a history of having some really good quarterbacks, really good receivers, moving the ball up and down the field. And I agree with you, Ken. It's something where South Aiken's going to have to control the football, but they're going to have to pass too. And, and I think it's going to, if they can control it and have the ball, keep Northwestern off the field. I agree. Their defensive backs are a little smallish. We saw that in the game in the Jamboree with Midland Valley. Midland Valley made a play on a long pass where the defenders were there, and they jumped up in there and tapped it up, and it ended up in the hands of the wide receiver from Midland Valley. And that's the kind of thing they're going to have to guard against tomorrow. They can't. They've got to be able to get up and knock the ball down, if not pick it off.
Well, and a great name for Northwestern as the visitors come in. Quadarius Fair was the leading receiver last week, and if he catches 10 passes again tomorrow and his other buddies catch a few more, it won't be fair. Okay, we're going to be in trouble.
How long have you been working on that?
Not that long, but I mean, I really feel that way. They got to be able to control those receivers, and that's going to be a tough task.
And like you say, the best way to keep those receivers under wraps is keep them off the field.
Keep them off the field, that's right.
And as you say, I think it's going to be, it certainly is incumbent on the running game, but they do need to mix in effectiveness with the passing game. I think that Bo's put up some decent numbers to this point, but it hasn't been, it hasn't been where he's taken over a game. It's been a difference in the game. He might need it to be for a few plays in this game tonight.
Yeah, and from a standpoint of looking forward, it's a tall task. If South Aiken can hang in there and make the progress that they did last week, they may even come up on the short end, but it certainly will be a step forward from what they did last year, and we got the rest of the season going. But we're looking forward on being there tonight. Noah will be on the sidelines for the Holly Tractor Report. Ken and I will be in the booth, and we're looking forward to that. But what we're going to do now is we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we'll talk about some of the other games going on around the county and Edgefield, as well as, I think they're even in Saluda County this week. So we'll talk about that when we come back on Talkback Live.